Always at the edge, but never quite there.
Corrosion, you say? Show me your left eye.
Edge of Eternity was developed by Midgar Studio and came to Game Pass earlier this year, so I took the opportunity to try it out. It's a turn-based RPG which takes a lot of inspiration from Final Fantasy. You could tell the passion was there for this game, but never hit the spot for most of its endeavours, leaving a lot to be desired for a lot of core areas. So let's take a look at Edge of Eternity and see how they just fell short of making a great RPG. Before we get into it, if you're new here, I post reviews and videos on what I think makes some games great and how others can be better. So if that's something that you're into, then please consider subscribing and ringing that bell so you don't miss out. Just looking at the cover art for this game, you see hints of Final Fantasy, or JRPGs in general. Of course, that bleeds through to more than just this artwork, but we'll get to that in a minute. When I first saw this pop up on Game Pass, I thought,
excellent! Another JRPG for me to sink my teeth into. That'll scratch my Final Fantasy itch.
So naturally I downloaded it. Jumping into Edge of Eternity, you can see that the art style is not too different to Final Fantasy 15. If you can't tell, I'm gonna reference Final Fantasy quite a bit. Their name is Midgar Studio, for God's sake. I feel like this game would have benefited with more of a stylized look. I won't say it looks like a 360 or PS3 game, won't go that far, but it definitely looks more like a launch title for the PS4 and Xbox One. The lackluster graphics are mostly noticeable in the character models because some of the environments do look beautiful, so long as you stay out of all the nooks and crannies and mainly look into the distance. Alright, we got that bit out of the way. We can't judge a game entirely on its graphics. I'm going to say that it's not a bad game and that you should still play it. My verdict isn't that nobody should play this game. Heck, I put in over 50 hours into this game, so I definitely don't think it's bad. Like my video making, it just needs improvement. It's a good game, but that's the highest praise I could give it. It's good. Like a pirate that can't lift their spyglass, the scope is too big. Half of this game could have been cut to flesh out the rest. You can tell they were trying to go for a large-scale story, but that meant that other areas were just underdeveloped and other parts just didn't go anywhere. One part of the story is that a character named Isaurus was the only person to have ever survived this plague called the corruption. And his explanation for doing so is that a silver-haired goddess reached out and helped him. You're then led to think that hunting her down is then part of your journey. Nope. You see some statue of her once, and then that's it. They just don't bring it up again. What wound me up was the end of the credits. Two characters begin talking in a way that sets up a sequel without tying up any loose ends from this game. Don't get me wrong, I want a sequel, mainly to get some damn answers. The story they're trying to set up is a good story. I can feel it. The problem is they've tried to put too much into one game. So all the different pieces don't get the time and attention that they need to tell it cohesively. Here's something that is great about the game. Battle system. The battles are fought on a grid system, and you can choose where your characters start on the grid in relation to the enemy from the in-game menu. Like Final Fantasy, your characters have an ATB gauge which fills up while you wait for your character to be able to take a turn. Moving a character to a different space on the grid takes up a turn, but it doesn't set you all the way back to the beginning of the gauge. It only puts you back halfway, which is great. And it's your standard rock, paper, scissors type deal with the elemental weaknesses of enemies. So, fire beats... No, fire doesn't beat water. Water beats fire, etc. Edge of Eternity was crowdfunded on Kickstarter and reached a goal of over $160,000. Massive kudos for them getting that when a huge amount of products don't even get off the ground on Kickstarter. But I believe their goals may have been a bit ambitious for the money and size of their team. $95,000 meant that they'd implement a crafting system, and I gotta be honest, it's the most uninteresting system I've ever used. I generally dislike crafting in any game, to be honest. I'd much rather just get new weapons and armor through enemy or boss drops, or just by buying them in new town. To craft weapons and armor, you need to gather materials from the open world and by defeating monsters. But you also need to use those raw materials to create new materials to use for crafting weapons and armor. Only if you have the recipe for it, I might add. It's okay though, because most of the recipes can be bought from recipe vendors, and more become available as you go through the story. And if you don't have enough raw materials to craft something, then another vendor in town has got you covered. I stopped gathering materials in the late game and just ended up buying them all, which became very boring and very time consuming as I was running back and forwards between the crafting bench and the vendor. Oh, that reminds me, crafting benches are dotted all over the towns and they're all separate. You have a gem crafting bench, a weapon crafting bench, an armor crafting bench, a material crafting bench. Just give me one damn bench to craft it all, or a workshop. Or just allow me to get new armor and weapons from boss drops or enemies, please. I've spent too long on crafting, both in-game and in this video. Moving on to the music. Because music is something I have to mention here because they nailed it. The soundtrack is the best thing about Edge of Eternity by far and was composed by Cedric Menendez and Yasunori Mitsuda. If that last name sounds familiar, then that's because he composed a soundtrack to Chrono Trigger, which I just started playing for the first time, and it is incredible. There will most likely be a video on that at some point, so make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss out. All the different tracks that are played in this game, they fit each area perfectly, and some of the piano pieces they are up there. They are some of the best I've heard in a game in a very long time. The music in this game is top tier. They really outdid themselves with that. This video is like all over the place, so I'm sorry. And if someone from Midgar Studio is watching by chance and have made it this far, then I'm also really sorry if this comes across as too negative. I only speak like that because I do want this game to exist and it deserves to be better. I can tell that the team are extremely passionate about what they're making, and I can tell because I played the whole game. I put in over 50 hours into this game. I couldn't put it down. I enjoyed the heck out of it, and every complaint I have is so small, but when you put them all together, it stops this game from achieving greatness. They have everything there. It just needs improvement. So I do hope that a sequel is in the works so they can build on everything that they've laid down as the foundations in Edge of Eternity. It still deserves a playthrough from any JRPG fan. If you enjoyed this video, then you might also enjoy my video about why I thought the side quests in Final Fantasy VII Remake were unacceptable. And you can see that right here. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you over there. Bye.